July 3, 2025. Courtney Hadwin's dad, who stayed silent for years, suddenly goes public. And what he reveals? It's something Simon Cowell never wanted anyone to hear. It's not about a contract dispute. It's not about talent show politics. It's about something far deeper. Something that happened behind the scenes during Courtney's run on AGT that changed everything. For years, fans asked why Courtney disappeared after blowing up the stage, and why Cowell, who praised her publicly, suddenly stopped supporting her career. Now, her father is breaking his silence, and his story is backed by emails, recordings, and one meeting that shocked even insiders in the AGT production team. What did Simon Cowell try to keep hidden? And why is Courtney's dad exposing it now? This is the untold story that flips the entire AGT narrative on its head. For years, Courtney Hadwin has been the quiet force of raw, untamed talent that shook global stages. The shy British teenager with the powerhouse voice won hearts with her electrifying performances on America's Got Talent, and stunned audiences who never saw her coming. But behind the viral clips, standing ovations, and record deals lies a deeper story, one that stretches beyond talent shows and dives into the complex world of fame, power, and hidden agendas. At the center of that world, Simon Cowell, the music mogul whose public persona as the harsh but fair judge masks an empire few truly understand. Simon Cowell's influence on the music industry is unmatched. From The X Factor to Britain's Got Talent and AGT, his shows have launched careers and shaped pop culture. But with that power comes whispers, rumors of manipulation, contracts that lock young stars into rigid deals, and behind-the-scenes decisions that favor marketability over artistry. For Courtney Hadwin, her overnight rise to fame brought her face to face with that system. And now, after years of silence, her father is finally speaking out, revealing details that could shift how we see Cowell's empire. This is not just another celebrity exposé. It's the story of a young girl's brush with global fame, the unseen machinery that controls who rises and who falls, and a protective father determined to lift the curtain. What he discovered behind that curtain may shock even the most loyal fans. As the pieces fall into place, the question emerges: was Courtney's journey truly about talent, or was it carefully orchestrated from the start? When Courtney Hadwin walked onto the America's Got Talent stage in 2018, few could have predicted what was about to unfold. A nervous, soft-spoken teenager, she seemed almost out of place among the polished performers vying for stardom. But within seconds of her performance, a blistering rendition of Otis Redding's Hard to Handle, the room exploded. And when Judge Howie Mandel slammed the golden buzzer, Courtney's life changed forever, or so it seemed. For millions watching at home, the golden buzzer is a symbol of overnight success, a fairy tale moment where raw talent is discovered and dreams are made. But according to Courtney's father, the reality behind that glittering moment is far more complex. Behind the scenes, contracts are signed, negotiations begin, and control quietly shifts away from the artist. In many cases, performers find themselves bound to production companies and management teams with little say in their creative path. Simon Cowell's role in this machine cannot be overstated. As executive producer and judge, his influence shapes not only who gets a shot, but what happens to them afterward. Courtney's father now claims that the golden buzzer, while dazzling on screen, is often the first step into a carefully constructed system, one where young artists are molded to fit commercial expectations, whether they realize it or not. In the weeks following her golden buzzer moment, Courtney Hadwin's world shifted overnight. Interviews, photo shoots, and endless rehearsals became her new normal. Her face was everywhere: YouTube thumbnails, entertainment headlines, social media trends. But beneath the surface of global recognition, her family began noticing cracks in the picture-perfect image the industry projected. According to her father, Behind the smiles and sparkling lights lurked an environment where young artists were managed, molded, and sometimes manipulated, all in service of an agenda they didn't fully understand. Courtney's father has revealed that from the moment the cameras stopped rolling, the pressure began. There were expectations, meetings with PR teams, stylists, vocal coaches, all carefully curated by those behind the scenes. But what troubled him most wasn't the hard work. It was the subtle but constant nudges to alter Courtney's identity. Her music choices, her style, even the way she presented herself were carefully steered toward what the machine believed would sell best. It wasn't about her unique artistry anymore. It was about fitting a formula. Simon Cowell's influence extended well beyond what audiences saw on screen. As a global brand architect, his decisions shaped not only Courtney's trajectory, but the entire public narrative. Her father claims that as the weeks turned to months, it became clear. The industry had one goal: to package Courtney in a way that maximized profits, even if it meant dimming the very spark that made her stand out. The smiling photos and viral clips, just the surface of a much more calculated operation. For most viewers, talent shows like America's Got Talent appear to be straightforward competitions, a merit-based stage where dreams come true. But insiders and families of contestants tell a different story. Behind the glittering performances and standing ovations are layers of contracts, legal fine print, and binding agreements few outside the industry ever see. Courtney Hadwin's father has now broken his silence on the documents that, in his words, turn dreams into control mechanisms. The moment a contestant receives a golden buzzer or advances to the next round, legal teams spring into action. Contracts are signed, often quickly, under pressure, locking performers into exclusivity deals, management structures, and promotional obligations. According to Courtney's father, these agreements can stretch for years, dictating everything from song choices to public appearances. And at the top of the pyramid sits Simon Cowell's production empire, which holds considerable sway over the careers it launches. While these contracts are framed as opportunities, critics argue they strip young performers of autonomy. For Courtney, the excitement of AGT soon collided with the reality of industry politics. Her father claims that what seemed like a golden ticket quickly became a gilded cage, where her voice and image were assets to be managed, rather than expressions of her true self. The contracts you never see tell a story few fans suspect, one of control, compromise, and, in some cases, exploitation. Fame can be intoxicating, but it also comes with a steep price, especially for young stars like Courtney Hadwin. As her performances racked up millions of views online, her family celebrated her success, but also watched with growing unease. Courtney's father now reveals that the attention, the cameras, the headlines, the social media frenzy wasn't just about admiration. It was a double-edged sword that opened their lives to a level of scrutiny and pressure few can imagine. Suddenly, every move Courtney made was analyzed, from her song choices to her facial expressions. Fans, critics, and industry insiders all had opinions, and not all of them were kind. Her father describes the toll it took on their family, the constant requests for appearances, the invasive media coverage, and the realization that they were no longer in control of Courtney's public image. What began as a dream was quickly becoming an overwhelming storm of attention, one they hadn't fully prepared for. According to Courtney's father, this intense exposure was no accident. It was a carefully crafted element of the industry's strategy. Simon Cowell's empire understood the power of viral fame, and once Courtney captured the world's attention, the machinery kicked into high gear. But the question remained, was Courtney's well-being truly a priority, or was she simply another product in a relentless entertainment pipeline? Simon Cowell's on-screen persona is nothing short of legendary. The sharp-tongued judge, the kingmaker with a piercing stare, and a reputation for discovering raw, untapped talent. To the millions glued to their screens worldwide, he is the face of entertainment ambition, the man who can transform an unknown hopeful into a global sensation with the snap of his fingers, or crush dreams with a single dismissive smirk. His image is one of wit, power, and ruthless honesty, but peel back the carefully constructed layers of the brand. The designer suits, the choreographed reactions, the glittering stage lights, and a different figure begins to emerge. A figure less judge, more puppeteer, a man whose reach extends far beyond snappy critiques and buzzer slams. This, as Courtney Hadwin's father now reveals, is the Simon Cowell the public was never meant to see. Cowell's production empire, spanning shows like The X Factor, Britain's Got Talent, America's Got Talent, and more, isn't simply a talent showcase. It's a tightly controlled machine, built not just to discover stars, but to manufacture them. And within that machine, few decisions are left to chance. From the moment Courtney Hadwin first stepped onto the AGT stage as a nervous teenage powerhouse, her family had unknowingly entered a system where spontaneity and authenticity often take a back seat to scripted moments and calculated brand building. Her breakout audition, which captivated millions with its raw, unpredictable energy, may have looked like a moment of pure, unscripted magic. But according to her father, that moment marked the beginning of a far more orchestrated journey. Behind the scenes, Courtney's fate began to shift. Song choices, far from reflecting her own preferences, were subtly, sometimes explicitly, suggested by producers and Cowell's team. Suggested, in the entertainment world, her father explains, rarely feels optional. These weren't mere recommendations, they were expectations, wrapped in the language of guidance. Every interview she gave was rehearsed, her responses shaped to present a version of herself that fit neatly within the marketable narrative Cowell's empire wanted to project. Even her wardrobe wasn't left to personal expression. It passed through multiple filters of approval, designed not for comfort or authenticity, but for maximum visual impact. What the public saw was Courtney, the rock and roll prodigy, the shy schoolgirl turned star. But behind the scenes, her family saw something more unsettling, the slow, steady reshaping of their daughter into a brand. Some industry insiders defend this level of control. They claim it's a necessity, a way to protect young artists from the harsh realities of the entertainment machine. But Courtney's father paints a different picture, a world where protection quickly slides into manipulation, where well-meaning advice morphs into a form of quiet coercion. The same system that promised to elevate his daughter's extraordinary talent, he argues, was quietly repackaging it, sanding down the rough edges, muting the rawness that had made her remarkable in the first place. It wasn't about nurturing her artistry. It was about crafting a marketable product, one that could be sold, repurposed, and ultimately controlled. For the Hadwins, the warning signs mounted. At first, it was subtle, a song that didn't quite suit Courtney's style, a media appearance that felt rehearsed, a costume choice that seemed disconnected from her identity. But soon, the pattern became impossible to ignore. The image being presented to the world was no longer entirely hers. It was a version of Courtney sculpted in boardrooms and production meetings, optimized for ratings, record sales, and viral moments. Faced with the slow erasure of their daughter's authenticity, the Hadwins found themselves at a crossroads: comply with the system and risk losing what made Courtney unique, or push back and risk everything. As her father now reveals, they chose the latter. By speaking out, they weren't just challenging Simon Cowell, they were challenging the entire machine built to silence the voices of young independent artists. And once that decision was made, there was no going back. Behind the glittering stage lights, roaring applause, and neatly packaged talent show success stories, there lies an uncomfortable truth: that few in the industry dare to acknowledge publicly. A harsh, unwritten rule whispered behind closed doors. Those who speak out risk everything. Those who question the system, challenge the narrative, or disrupt the carefully curated image of these entertainment empires are swiftly and quietly sidelined. For Courtney Hadwin's father, this wasn't some distant industry myth. It became his reality the moment he dared to raise concerns about the direction of his daughter's career. At first, the shift was so subtle, it could have been dismissed as coincidence. Meetings were delayed, then abruptly canceled without explanation. Calls that once came regularly with updates and opportunities suddenly stopped altogether. Trusted contacts, people who had once championed Courtney's raw, undeniable talent, grew distant, their messages short, their enthusiasm replaced with cautious, impersonal replies. There was no confrontation, no dramatic showdown, but the message was unmistakable. Step out of line, question the system, and watch the walls close in. But as the weeks turned into months, the consequences became impossible to ignore. Promised projects fell through, invitations stopped arriving, and the Hadwin family found themselves increasingly isolated from the very industry that had once celebrated Courtney's meteoric rise. The people in charge, the executives, managers, and powerful figures lurking just beyond the camera lens, weren't interested in dialogue or compromise. They operated in shadows, pulling strings, crafting public personas, and quietly deciding which artists soared and which were left behind. It was a machine, efficient and ruthless, and Courtney's father had just stepped in its way. Yet, for him, walking away in silence was never an option. Every time he saw his daughter, a young woman bursting with passion, energy, and a voice that defied her years, being nudged, shaped, and molded to fit an industry mold, his resolve deepened. It wasn't just about one contract, one opportunity, or even one career. It was about something bigger, the integrity of his daughter's future, and the countless other young, hopeful performers unknowingly stepping onto the same precarious path. What he soon discovered was unsettling but predictable. Simon Cowell's empire, an empire built not only on undeniable talent, but on an even more powerful foundation of silence, thrived behind the scenes in ways few fans ever saw. Publicly, it was a world of dreams, standing ovations, record deals, overnight stardom. But privately, it was an intricate web of control. Artists were celebrated until they asked too many questions. Families were embraced until they pushed back. And those who dared to pull back the curtain were quietly but effectively pushed to the margins. Their concerns brushed aside, their reputations slowly eroded. But silence, as far as Courtney's father was concerned, was complicity. And he couldn't, in good conscience, stay quiet. Not when his daughter's future, autonomy, and artistry were at stake. Speaking out came with consequences. He knew that. The phone calls stopped. The subtle smear campaigns began. Anonymous online accounts appeared, spreading misinformation, twisting facts, casting doubt. Behind closed doors, veiled legal threats loomed, but his conviction only grew stronger. Because this wasn't just about fame, record sales, or television appearances. It was about principle, about protecting the next generation of artists from an industry that all too often prioritized profit over people, image over authenticity, control over creativity. By breaking his silence, Courtney's father wasn't just defending his daughter, he was challenging the very